take a deep breath. And let's talk about Jennifer, a woman who transformed her deepest fear into her greatest triumph. Jennifer Carson lived in a small coastal town where the ocean stretched endlessly along the horizon, yet she admired it only from a distance, her heart racing at the mere thought of stepping into water deeper than her ankles. Her childhood was marked by an incident at a community pool where she nearly drowned, leaving an imprint of fear that shadowed her into adulthood, causing her to avoid beaches, pools, and even bathtubs filled too high. The soft morning light filtered through her kitchen window as Jennifer sipped her chamomile tea, the warmth spreading through her fingers and calming her thoughts as she contemplated another summer avoiding water activities with friends. Her home was a sanctuary of comfort, filled with plush pillows, soft throw blankets, and the gentle scent of lavender that drifted from diffusers placed throughout each room, creating an atmosphere of tranquility that contrasted sharply with the chaos she associated with water. Sarah Dawson had been Jennifer's best friend since college, a vibrant soul with sun-kissed skin and a passion for outdoor adventures that both fascinated and terrified Jennifer. Their friendship was built on a foundation of acceptance and gentle encouragement, with Sarah never pushing too hard, yet always keeping a door open for Jennifer to step beyond her comfort zone when she felt ready. The walls of Jennifer's living room were adorned with photographs of their adventures together, hiking through autumn forests, stargazing on mountain peaks, and picnicking in wildflower meadows, all carefully selected activities that respected Jennifer's boundaries while still nurturing her connection to nature. Sarah understood better than anyone how Jennifer's fear of water had limited her experiences, watching as her friend made excuses to avoid family beach trips or declined invitations to poolside gatherings. One crisp spring morning, as birds chirped their melodious songs outside Jennifer's window and the scent of blooming jasmine filled the air, Sarah arrived with a thermos of hot chocolate and a proposition that made Jennifer's stomach tighten with anxiety. "I've found the perfect place," Sarah said, her eyes sparkling with excitement as she described a hidden waterfall nestled in the nearby mountains, its crystal-clear pool supposedly shallow, enough for beginners and surrounded by lush greenery that created a natural sanctuary of peace. Jennifer listened with a mixture of fear and curiosity as Sarah explained her plan to help overcome this long-standing fear, emphasizing that they would take it slow, starting with just sitting by the water's edge and feeling its cool touch against their fingertips. The thought alone made Jennifer's palms sweat and her heart rate quicken, but there was something in Sarah's confident smile and gentle reassurance that planted a tiny seed of possibility in Jennifer's mind. As days passed, that seed began to grow, nurtured by Sarah's patient text messages, sharing articles about swimming techniques for beginners and the therapeutic benefits of water immersion. Jennifer found herself researching the waterfall location, captivated by photographs of families with young children splashing happily in the natural pools, their faces illuminated with joy that seemed so foreign yet increasingly enticing to her. The night before their planned trip, Jennifer packed her bag with trembling hands, including a new swimsuit still bearing its tags, a purchase made on impulse during a rare moment of courage. She laid in bed that evening, focusing on her breathing as Sarah had taught her, inhaling the gentle scent of chamomile oil dabbed on her wrists and listening to the soothing sounds of a rainfall meditation track that gradually lulled her into a surprisingly restful sleep. Morning arrived with golden sunlight streaming through Jennifer's curtains, birds singing harmoniously outside her window as if encouraging her brave decision. She awoke feeling a strange mixture of dread and anticipation, her limbs heavy with anxiety, yet her mind clearer than it had been in weeks, as though part of her had already accepted the challenge that lay ahead. Sarah arrived promptly at 9, her vehicle packed with towels, flotation devices, water shoes, and a picnic basket filled with Jennifer's favorite comfort foods, fresh strawberries, homemade chocolate chip cookies, and cucumber sandwiches cut into perfect triangles. Her thoughtfulness brought tears to Jennifer's eyes as she realized how much care her friend had put into planning this day, determined to create not just a challenge but a memory worth treasuring. The drive to the waterfall was filled with gentle conversation and soothing music, Sarah pointing out wildflowers along the roadside and sharing stories of her own first swimming experiences as a child. Jennifer found herself relaxing into the passenger seat, allowing the rhythmic motion of the car and the warmth of the sun through the window to ease her anxieties as they ventured farther from town and deeper into the embrace of nature. They parked at a small clearing and began a short hike through a forest trail carpeted with pine needles that cushioned their steps and released their earthy fragrance with each footfall. Jennifer focused on the sensation of soft ground beneath her feet, the dappled sunlight creating patterns on her skin, and the symphony of birdsong that surrounded them, momentarily distracting her from thoughts of what awaited at their destination. As they rounded the final bend in the trail, the sound of falling water became more distinct and gentle, musical cadence that seemed to harmonize with the rustling leaves and distant bird calls. Jennifer paused, her breath catching as the waterfall came into view, a slender ribbon of crystal water cascading about 15 feet down, moss-covered rocks into a clear pool surrounded by ferns and wildflowers, exactly as Sarah had described, but somehow more magical in its reality. The area was deserted, a private paradise seemingly created just for their journey, and Jennifer felt a sudden wave of gratitude wash over her as she watched sunlight dance across the surface of the water, creating rainbow prisms that flickered like nature's own light show. Sarah squeezed her hand gently, her expression one of understanding rather than expectation, silently communicating that today would unfold at Jennifer's pace, with no pressure or judgment. They settled on a sun-warmed rock near the pool's edge, removing their hiking boots to dangle their feet above the water's surface while unpacking their lunch. Jennifer watched as tiny fish darted beneath the crystal-clear surface, their movements graceful and unhurried, and she found herself mesmerized by the gentle ripples that expanded outward from where Sarah occasionally dipped her toes, creating perfect concentric circles that seemed to whisper of harmony and natural order. After their picnic, Sarah suggested they move closer to the water, finding a smooth, flat rock where they could sit with just their feet immersed in the cool pool. Jennifer hesitated, then nodded, her hand gripping Sarah's as they carefully positioned themselves at the edge, the refreshing sensation of water lapping against her ankles, sending both chills and unexpected pleasure through her body. "Just breathe with me," Sarah instructed gently, demonstrating slow, deep inhalations that Jennifer mirrored, focusing on the rhythm of their synchronized breathing rather than the fluttering panic in her chest. The water felt different than Jennifer had imagined, not threatening but supportive, cool but not cold, moving but somehow stable, and she found herself wiggling her toes beneath the surface, tentatively exploring this new sensation. Minutes stretched into an hour as they sat together, Sarah patiently answering Jennifer's nervous questions about water depth, currents, and swimming techniques, her calm voice blending with the waterfall's peaceful song. Gradually, Jennifer found her questions shifting from fearful what-ifs to curious inquiries about how it felt to float, to swim, to experience the freedom Sarah often described when speaking of her water adventures. "Would you like to move a little deeper?" Sarah eventually asked, her expression warm but neutral, offering the suggestion without expectation. Jennifer surprised herself by nodding, her curiosity now slightly outweighing her fear as they slowly shifted position, sliding into the pool until the water reached their knees, then their thighs, each increment accompanied by patient pauses, allowing Jennifer to acclimate to the new sensation. The water embraced Jennifer's body with gentle pressure, supporting her weight in a way that felt surprisingly secure, and she marveled at how the sunlight refracted through the surface, painting rippling patterns across her skin. Sarah demonstrated how to cup water in her palms and lift it, letting it cascade down her arms in rivulets that tickled pleasantly, encouraging Jennifer to experience water as a playful element rather than a threatening one. As her confidence grew, Jennifer ventured to splash gently, creating miniature rainbows in the sunlight and laughing, truly laughing, for the first time in years at the sheer joy of this simple interaction with water. Sarah beamed at the sound, Recognizing it as a significant milestone in their journey, her own eyes glistening with emotion as she witnessed her friend's gradual transformation. They progressed to a shallow section where Sarah demonstrated floating on her back, arms outstretched like a starfish, face tilted toward the sky with a serene expression that made the position look incredibly appealing. "The secret is to trust," she explained, reaching out to support Jennifer's back as she tentatively leaned backward, her body tense with anticipation of sinking despite Sarah's reassuring hands beneath her. Jennifer's first attempt at floating lasted only seconds before panic seized her, causing her to flail and stand upright again, water dripping from her hair as she caught her breath. Sarah praised her courage rather than focusing on the brevity of the attempt, pointing out that months ago, Jennifer wouldn't have even considered stepping into water, let alone attempting to float within it. On her third attempt, something shifted. Jennifer felt her body relax ever so slightly, felt the water rise to cradle her, and experienced 5 glorious seconds of weightlessness before standing again. The sensation was unlike anything she had ever known, a perfect suspension between elements that hinted at freedoms yet to be discovered. And her face broke into a spontaneous smile of accomplishment that Sarah immediately captured with her waterproof camera. They spent the afternoon in gentle progression, moving from floating with support to Jennifer holding the edge of the pool while kicking her legs in swimming motions. Each small victory celebrated with enthusiastic high fives and occasional treats from their picnic basket. The sunlight shifted through the trees, casting lengthening shadows across the water's surface as the day progressed, marking the passage of time in their sanctuary of growth. Sarah shared stories of her own journey with water, confessing fears she had overcome and mistakes she had made while learning to swim, her vulnerability creating a deeper bond between them as Jennifer realized that courage wasn't the absence of fear, but rather the decision to move forward despite it. The admission that even confident, adventurous Sarah had once struggled made Jennifer's own journey feel more valid and achievable. As the afternoon waned, Sarah suggested they visit the base of the waterfall, where a natural shelf created a small, private nook behind the cascading water. Jennifer hesitated, then nodded, allowing Sarah to guide her through chest-deep water with careful steps and constant reassurance, her trust in her friend now stronger than the remaining whispers of fear. The space behind the waterfall was magical, a small pocket where sunlight filtered through the falling water, creating an ever-shifting curtain of diamonds that danced across their faces. The sound was different here, a rhythmic drumming that seemed to synchronize with Jennifer's heartbeat, and she closed her eyes to simply experience the moment with all her remaining senses, the cool mist on her skin, the earthy scent of wet stone, the taste of pure mountain water on her lips. "How do you feel?" Sarah asked softly, her voice barely audible above the water's song, and Jennifer opened her eyes to find her friend watching her with an expression of such pride and love that tears welled up, indistinguishable from the droplets already on her cheeks. "I feel alive," Jennifer answered truthfully, the simplicity of her response conveying depths of gratitude and revelation that more elaborate words couldn't capture. As they emerged from behind the waterfall, Jennifer noticed a small ledge about 5 feet above a deeper section of the pool. Not the main waterfall, but a miniature version that other visitors had clearly used for jumping, judging by the worn path leading to its edge. She pointed to it questioningly, surprising Sarah, who had not expected Jennifer to consider such an advanced step on their first visit. Sarah evaluated the jumping spot with experienced eyes, confirming it was safe with a depth suitable for beginners, but emphasized that Jennifer should feel no pressure to attempt it today. Their journey had already been remarkably successful by any measure. Jennifer considered this, watching the late afternoon sunlight gilding the surface of the pool with amber hues, and realized that something fundamental had shifted within her during these precious hours. "I want to try," she declared softly but firmly, her voice steadier than she had anticipated. "But only if you'll jump with me." Sarah's face lit up with a mixture of surprise and delight as she nodded enthusiastically, explaining how they would climb up together, hold hands for the jump, and what Jennifer should do upon entering the water arms at her sides. Slight bend at the knees, gentle exhalation through the nose. The climb to the small ledge was brief, but gave Jennifer time to question her decision, doubt flickering through her mind like shadows as they carefully positioned themselves at the edge. The water below seemed suddenly farther away, its surface less inviting than it had appeared from below, and Jennifer felt her courage wavering as old fears whispered familiar cautions in her ear. Sarah seemed to sense her friend's hesitation, reaching out to take Jennifer's hand in a warm, secure grasp that anchored her to the present moment rather than the anxieties of the past. "Remember, I'm right here with you," Sarah reassured her, "and there's no rush. We can stand here as long as you need, or climb back down if that feels better right now." Jennifer closed her eyes, focusing on the solid warmth of Sarah's hand in hers, the gentle pressure of their fingers, intertwined in friendship and support that spanned years of shared experiences. She took 3 deep breaths, feeling the mountain air fill her lungs and calm her racing heart, then opened her eyes with newfound clarity and nodded once, a silent signal that she was ready to leap beyond the boundaries she had lived within for so long. "On 3, Sarah suggested, her voice steady and encouraging as they counted together, the numbers hanging in the air between them like promises. "On 3, Jennifer felt her knees bend in unison with Sarah's, their hands gripping tighter as they pushed off from solid ground into momentary flight. suspended in air with nothing but trust and courage holding them aloft. The sensation of falling lasted only a second, but stretched into eternity in Jennifer's mind, a perfect moment of complete freedom where fear had no place to take root, where her body moved through space unhindered by the limitations she had accepted as permanent fixtures of her life. The sunlight caught droplets from the waterfall, surrounding their descent with miniature rainbows that seemed to celebrate this milestone with prismatic applause. They entered the water together, a synchronized splash that sent ripples outward across the pool's surface, concentric circles expanding like the growth Jennifer had experienced throughout this remarkable day. The water enveloped her in a cool embrace that felt, for the first time in her life, welcoming rather than threatening, and she allowed herself to sink briefly before remembering Sarah's instructions to kick upward toward the light. Jennifer broke the surface with a gasp that transformed into delighted laughter, her hand still firmly clasped in Sarah's as they treaded water together in the deepest part of the pool. "We did it," she exclaimed, water droplets catching in her eyelashes and hair like tiny crystals that refracted the golden late afternoon sunlight, creating a halo effect that seemed fitting for this moment of rebirth. Sarah squeezed Jennifer's hand once more before releasing it, demonstrating a simple backstroke that propelled her gently across the water while still allowing eye contact and conversation. Jennifer hesitated only briefly before attempting to mimic the movement, her arms creating awkward but effective arcs that moved her forward through the water, each stroke building confidence that radiated through her entire being. They swam together in slow, meandering circles, Jennifer occasionally pausing to simply float and gaze up at the sky where the first early evening stars were beginning to appear, tiny pinpricks of light witnessing her transformation. The water no longer felt like an adversary, but a partner in her journey, supporting her body and responding to her movements with a synchronicity that felt almost like communication between old friends. "Thank you," Jennifer whispered as they eventually made their way back to the edge of the pool, the simple words inadequate to express the magnitude of her gratitude, yet somehow perfect in their sincerity. Sarah smiled in understanding, helping her friend onto the smooth rock where their adventure had begun, both of them dripping and shivering slightly as the evening air cooled their skin, yet glowing with the warmth of shared accomplishment. As they dried off and changed into warm clothes, Jennifer found herself already planning their next visit, mentally cataloging swimming techniques she wanted to learn and other waterfalls they might explore together. The fear that had defined her relationship with water for decades hadn't vanished completely, but it had been transformed into something manageable, a small voice of caution rather than a paralyzing scream of terror. They gathered their belongings in the fading light, Jennifer pausing to take one last photograph of the waterfall, bathed in the golden hues of sunset, wanting to capture this place of transformation, to revisit in quieter moments when she needed to remember her own capacity for growth and courage. The image would join others on her wall, but with a significance that far outweighed any previous adventure they had shared. The hike back to the car was filled with comfortable silence interspersed with soft conversation, both women wrapped in the tranquil afterglow of meaningful experience rather than feeling the need to analyze or dissect what had occurred. Jennifer felt a profound sense of peace settling over her like a warm blanket, her body pleasantly tired, yet somehow lighter, as though she had left behind more than just fear in the crystalline waters of the pool. As Sarah drove them home through the gathering twilight, Jennifer rested her head against the window and watched stars appearing one by one in the deepening blue sky, feeling gratitude wash over her in gentle waves reminiscent of the water that had held her today. She realized that overcoming her fear hadn't just opened the possibility of swimming in her future. It had unlocked a new understanding of her own resilience and capacity for growth that would ripple outward into every aspect of her life, just as their jumps had sent circles expanding across the surface of the pool. That night, Jennifer fell asleep to the gentle sound of a rainfall meditation track, but for the first time, the water sounds brought comfort rather than anxiety, carrying her into dreams where she swam freely through crystal-clear pools, no longer bound by limitations she had once believed were permanent. In the morning, she would wake renewed, ready to explore what other fears might be transformed into freedom with the right combination of friendship, courage, and the willingness to take that first, terrifying, wonderful leap of faith.